Well, good day, my friends. It's your old pal, Jordan the Lion. How are you all doing today? I hope you said great. I'm doing great. This is going to be kind of a lighthearted, fun vlog, even though we're going to be in a cemetery, because the guy who we're here to visit and pay respects to had quite a sense of humor. In fact, one of my favorite things that he ever said was one time someone said, "Hey Slim, what did you do from 1950 to 1980? And he said, "Pretty much starved to death." Daze with Jordan the Lion, it begins right now. So today I'm in, well, just outside of Jacksonville, just about southwest of Jacksonville. I'm in Middleburg. This is the Middleburg Methodist Church, and this is where the falsetto yodeling legend Slim Whitman is buried. And what a fascinating story this guy has. I think he's definitely, like I said, he has a great sense of humor, but very memorable. In fact, if you saw my thumbnail, my title, guy saved the world. I'll tell you about that when we get out here. But I was kind of surprised he was buried here because he was raised in the Tampa area. He actually, you won't think of a country guy normally being from Tampa, but yeah, he was born and raised in Tampa. Actually said he wanted to originally be a baseball player. He was a pretty good pitcher when he was in high school, and then played for the Plant City team, making 20 bucks a week. And he said, but his wife didn't like it. She wouldn't even sit behind home plate. He said that she was so afraid that she would get hurt. So he wasn't making great money there. So he started working at the shipyard, a job that he actually enjoyed, but he ended up enlisting in the Navy. He's actually right over here. This is a local town cemetery, kind of the older residents, even some pioneers. There you can see the bench says Whitman. And one of the trustees that I met here was actually telling me that in the register it's under his wife's name because he was so modest. He told me he had a ranch just outside of town and put it in his will that he didn't want it turned into a museum or anything. No Graceland or anything like that. So there he is, Slim Whitman, Otis Dewey Whitman, his real name. There you can see he was born in 1923, died in 2013, pretty good run, 90 years old. And it says, "Everything leads back to you." One of his great songs. There's his wife, Alma. She'd go by Jerry. They were also telling me that their son, he still comes out here like once a week. He lives in the area and he brings the flowers. So when Slim ended up going into the Navy, he was actually really well liked, and would borrow someone's guitar, restring it because he was a lefty. He would string it upside down so he could play it, and he would entertain his fellow naval officers. And they actually were going to transfer him to another boat, and one of his captains stepped up and said, you know, please don't, because he's good for our morale. And that boat that he was supposed to be transferred to actually was sunk, and there were no survivors. So when he came back from the war, he was in World War II. When he came back, he went and worked at the shipyards again, but he said because there was no war, they really had no work. And he used to sing while he was walking around the shipyards, that yodeling that he would do. And when people would ask him how he learned to do it, he said it was just something I could pretty much always do. He kind of thought you had to be born with it. He said, from the time I was young and would hear Jimmy Rogers records, I could sing them, so it was no big deal. But someone around the shipyard said, "Hey Slim, they're gonna close down the shipyards. We're thinking of starting a band. Do you want to be the singer?" And he decided to do that. He started performing around Tampa, and they had some success, ended up getting on the radio. But he didn't like to talk about himself, so his wife would actually go and kind of be the announcer for him and everything. And then they got offered a record contract in Nashville, and he said he thought when he got that, he was really on his way. He said, I thought when we, you know, all the work we were doing, the songs we were recording and everything, when I get my check, it'd be for like $1 million. He said, and then when I got it, it was for only like 1,000. So he started working at the post office while he was recording albums. And he actually said even if he had a hit, he wouldn't quit the post office because he just didn't really have faith in it, and said it wasn't until Indian Love Call finally crossed over that he went to his job, went to the postmaster and said, hey, I think I need to quit now. They said, why don't we just put you on leave and then you can come back if you want to, if this music career doesn't work out. But he said like 30 years later, he's like, I'm probably still on leave. I could probably go back if I wanted to now. I think a lot of times he doesn't get the recognition for helping to discover Elvis Presley. He was out touring, and he said when they were in Louisiana, someone offered him a gig in Memphis. And when they got to the gig, Elvis was their opener. And he said this kid was wiggling and singing, and he was great. He said my band didn't think so. They thought he was just a flash in the pan. I said, well, if he is, he's the biggest flash I've ever seen, biggest, brightest flash I've ever seen. He said then we went to play at the Louisiana Hayride right after that, and he said as customary, we'd get there early and people would say, hey, where you been playing, who you seen? And I told him I had just been to Memphis and seen this kid named Elvis, and they booked him, and then the Colonel dropped Eddie Arnold, who he was representing, and started representing Elvis, and the rest was history. Slim was a huge star in the UK. He said when he released Rosemarie, he said that word got back to him that it was a hit in the UK, especially London. And he said that it was a good thing somebody turned me on to this, because he said the record company that I had been with had never told me that. And he said until I found out, I probably wouldn't have got paid from him for that song. But that song became legendary because in Slim's lifetime, nobody ever broke the record of that song topping the charts for 11 weeks, being at #1. Elvis never did that. The Beatles never did that. Slim had a really good career there. He said he went from performing in the United States, he would do one-off gigs, like he would play one night and then move on to another town, to where when he got his first bookings in 1957 in the UK, he said they would book him for 2 weeks at a time. He said he couldn't believe it. He almost was thinking like, what am I going to do? Do I have to do different songs every night? But he said people would just show up. The place would be packed every night. And he became legendary. He would go and perform there for the rest of his career. Now, Slim actually ended up making a ton of money kind of by accident. It's probably what people know him mostly for, those commercials selling his records.
Last year, 1,400,000 TV viewers ordered this man's albums and tapes and made him a new American recording star. The international star whose heart-touching voice has now captured America. Making believe. The star who had the #1 record in England for more weeks than even Elvis and the Beatles.
Now, he said what happened was, he said in 1979 he was contacted by a company and they said that they had leased some of his songs and were going to release like a greatest hits and wanted him to be in the commercial. And he said he really hated TV, had no intention or interest in doing it, and told him no. But he said his son Byron actually said, hey, Dad, you haven't sold a record in like 10 years. What will it hurt? So he said he called him back, agreed to do it, went and filmed this thing in Pittsburgh. And then he said when it was released in 1980, it sold like 3 million records. And all of a sudden he started having hits, like singles again. And he said for him it was a big deal because he said it just justified what he always knew, which was that he knew there was an audience for him out there. He knew that there were people that loved or would love his music if they heard it. He just always thought that he was poorly marketed. And, you know, for the next 10 years, he would have a really great career going out touring and selling records on commercials. They would end up using his music for the music in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But like I mentioned earlier, he saved the world. They used his music. If you ever saw Mars Attacks, which was a great movie, I thought it was great, Tim Burton movie with Jack Nicholson where the United States is attacked by aliens. Well, the only thing that ends up being able to kill these aliens is Indian Love Call. They play Indian Love Call and the aliens' heads start exploding, which I thought was hilarious. I thought that would, and knowing what Slim would always say about like his music and interviews and things like that and how he saw himself, I think he would have thought that was hilarious too. I'm sure he did. The movie was made while he was still alive, so. Now you see that historic church here on the grounds? They actually offered for me to go and take a look at it. I asked if they knew if Slim went to that church or not. He said he didn't know for sure, but he said that where his son lives, there's a church out there and his son goes to that church, and that Slim used to attend those services and would sing often for the services. I'll never forget the first time I ever saw Slim Whitman. It was because of Andy Kaufman. In the 1970s, when maybe it wasn't that popular to have someone like Slim Whitman on TV, Wolfman Jack had a show called Midnight Special, and he would often have Slim Whitman, and that's how I found out about who Slim was, because I was a big Andy Kaufman fan, and I was seeking out everything that Andy Kaufman was attached to or that you could get your hands on before things were so readily available through the internet. And I was buying DVDs and VHSs, and I bought the one where Andy was the host, and he had Slim Whitman on there, and I think he did Indian Love Call. And if you ever saw the performance of Yoko Ono singing and Chuck Berry playing guitar and the expression he had on his face when she starts singing, that was pretty much the expression I had when I heard Slim. I had never heard anything like that before, and it took some time to get used to, but now I actually think he has a great voice. I liken him to kind of somewhere in between Roy Orbison and Tiny Tim. He just had this weird appeal, and he prided himself on being a crossover artist where he was mainly country, but he could also sell records in the pop market. And he was also known for his weeping guitar. That was that beautiful slide guitar that he would have doing all the echoes of whatever he was going up into falsetto. I just thought that was amazing. You can really hear it in Indian Love Call, but he did it quite often in a lot of records. Rest in peace, Slim and Jerry. Married in June 28th, 1941. And they were also telling me here that Slim gets an awful lot of visitors from the UK, fans from the UK. He's widely regarded as like a god there, like a musical god. I was actually told that way back in the founding of Florida, there was a Seminole trading post that was located on the water over there in that area, and that some of the earliest pioneers to come are buried here, and there's one kind of right over by the entrance. They also told me that there was a cafe local to here that Slim used to have coffee at all the time. So really cool to hear these stories of him just being a local around here, and that his son still comes out and visits him often. See, here's one of the earliest. Came here in 1822, Isaac Varn. Wow, very beautiful.
So the pews are mahogany. That had to be shipped down here as well. I hate that they painted it, but because of repairs they've had to make over the time.
You said this was from the 20s originally, the church?
This is original. This isn't a reproduction of. This is the original building.
Beautiful.
Did you read the sign out in front?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so it's extra wide aisles. There's still, took the Puritan thing, men on one side, women on another.
Yeah.
And back. It was totally built by slave labor. And obviously we've done quite a bit of work.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
during COVID, we had a lot of time to do things. So the stained glass window is from the 80s, I think 1980 as a matter of fact. We removed that and had it cleaned. And when they clean them, I didn't realize this, that they take everything apart. And they
Oh,
piece by piece.
I didn't know that
They do
either.
like an acid bath piece by piece.
Oh, wow.
So we did the carpeting and the brand new pew cushions. We're done after that around there too, and painted inside outside.
Very nice.
The lights are from the 70s, so they're really not.
The originals.
Yeah, they're not originals, but I guess at this point, 50 years, I guess they're antique.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed finding out more about Slim Whitman and visiting Slim Whitman's grave today. Go listen to Indian Love Call, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.